Where'll you be going?
Texas?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Go on, make it happen.
And now here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome from the heart of Dripping Springs. We are Mallet and Michelle, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallet. I promise you I wasn't asleep. I was reading my notes.
This what a crazy day. I'm just barely keeping up here, but we're doing it.
Crazy day. Thank you to our sponsors, M. Elliott Studio,
Capital Farm Credit,
and Mallet Integrity Team.
And Nomic Power Solutions. Yeah, couldn't do the show without y'all. Thanks very much. Our guest today, I'm excited, and it's something I know nothing about.
Dr. Sarah Saxon. She is a plastic surgeon here in town, but
she does that Botox stuff that all you ladies are all getting now.
It's just not just Botox stuff she does. She's very well versed, and she gives back to the community, and she's a Baylor girl, and she's kind of traveled all over, and she was trained by some specialty surgeon in Japan, and I'm looking forward to
I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm going to learn a lot.
I have an appointment scheduled for you already.
Yeah, right. There's no beautifying this face, Michelle. This is it. This is all we got. Hey, there's been a lot of local stuff happening in the last couple of days.
Wow, some little DS news. We talked about this last week. The school board election is finally done.
God, yeah.
Woo!
I was actually surprised when I went in to vote on Saturday last week. That was the only thing on the ballot.
Yeah.
That was it. Just the school board.
Very low attended, which it usually is because there's nothing else there. But congratulations to former guest Mary Jane Hetrick and a friend of ours. She's an amazing person. Stephanie Reinhold and Shanda DeLeon. Outgoing John Adams the incumbent, did not win his seat.
And he's been there a long time. So that was kind of a shakeup. And then Terry Purdy, who ran a new campaign, did not.
But she's very involved. I hope she continues to stay involved in the schools, and she's very involved. So, some new blood in the school board, and maybe it's an indication of kind of people respecting Dripping Springs and who we are and why we are.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of a sea change at the school board as far as the policies. Some of the things that were coming in were not well received by some of the parents, and I think that maybe the election reflected that. Real quick. You know that there were some at this last election. There were some places that were voting to either leave the city of Austin or stay in the city of Austin. Remember we talked about
the
that?
ETJ.
River Place. They had an election to see if they should remove themselves from the city or not, and I believe it passed.
Where's River Place?
It's a community in Austin off of 360.
Oh, like by Riverbend. Yeah.
Do you know how many people voted? And I believe they removed themselves from the city of Austin. You know how many people voted? One.
Oh.
So if you think voting doesn't matter, one person voted and determined the whole course of that election. So the entire community of River Place left the city of Austin based on that one person's vote. So get out there and vote.
That's crazy. Well, I wanted to just kind of, I think it was last week, we gave a shout out to our emergency responders. Yeah. And on my way to work last week, I had something kind of horrific I witnessed. There was an awful accident right at Canyonwood in 290. It was a dad and two little girls taking his kids to school and another woman that was involved.
I drove by it when it was being cleaned up, and you said, "Oh yeah, I came up on that accident," and then didn't realize until much later when you told me this story how you really came up on it.
Yeah, I was not in the accident, but I stopped to help. I'm an EMR with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. And I witnessed firsthand the men and women of Hays County Emergency Services, and what an amazing job that they did. We had a very scared, big, burly dad, and with some of his most precious things in his entire life, and
his two little children.
As far as I know, that they're on their way to recovery. They're good. I'm not quite certain about the other lady in the accident. She was injured pretty severely, and I was kind of covered in biologics because of
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah.
I just want to again just thank you so much to Hayes County first responders and everything that you guys do.
And kudos to you for
Well,
stopping and helping. And then I guess a doctor came up right behind you.
a doctor came up behind me, and an EMT came up behind me. But I tell you what. Having my son that's an EMT and, jumping out of helicopters and doing all that stuff and your adrenaline gets super high, my entire body shut down about 2 hours after that. Just shut
all that
down.
Adrenaline, coursing through your veins.
I just don't know how
But you just jumped to it. You just got in there and rolled your sleeves up and
I reacted. I was trained and I knew that there was a need and we got there before ambulance and anybody else. So we did what we did.
What's cool about all that is this is not a community that just drives on by stuff like that. Somebody's in an accident. That sucks. People pulled over, they helped, they pulled blankets out of their cars. You were helping, talking.
They have a blanket, but that's what the police officer said. The Hayes County Sheriff's officer, his name was John, and he said, he goes, while I was walking to my car, hey, can you help me get out? After everybody was in ambulances and stuff, and. He said, this almost never happens. He goes, we had an EMR, an EMT, and a doctor. He goes, this was amazing. He goes, I love this community.
Yeah, isn't it great?
It was cool.
I got a couple small stories real quick that are DS things. The whole TxDOT thing, which has been big topic of conversation recently.
We're trying to get them on.
Yeah, the improvements coming from Oak Hill all the way through Dripping Springs out to, I think, Roger Hanks
And
Park
we had a meeting with our Dripping Springs Elite group.
Yeah, Dripping Springs Elite Real Estate Professionals. Willie from TxDOT, who's the head engineer for this entire project, a great guy, came out and gave us about a 45-minute presentation. And the project, good or bad, is currently on hold. The response from the community was so great, so big, and they got so many comments that they've decided they really need to kind of step back for a second and get everybody's feedback on what they're going to do. The one big takeaway I had from this was the project's going to happen. It's just the manner in which it will happen is being discussed.
I had a big takeaway too about it interesting, and then that one was that 14 lane or whatever misnomer, and the other
16 lanes.
16 lane, yeah.
So it's 6 lanes in the middle, and then you have the
protected turns.
Well, the roads on the side. What do you call those?
The feeders.
The feeder roads. And at some places on the feeder road, you'll have 2 lanes going forward, one doing a loop, and one or maybe 2.
They were
turning,
counting all of
2
those.
turning left to go underneath or over, and they were counting it and saying it's a 16-lane highway. Well, no, that's not it. In certain places, if you measure straight across, it's 16. Yeah, that was a big takeaway.
One of the other big ones that I had personally was that if you complain enough and something's going to get done. If you want something done, you all need to come together and figure out what that something is. Otherwise, you're going to look like Maynard, Texas, where all of the highway just kind of ends in your little town. And Maynard said they didn't want anything. And now this was when they were first doing it.
It's just a giant
And now
mess
Maynard is
down
saying,
there.
please help us.
Please come
and
fix
TxDOT
it.
said, you know what? We've moved on. We had to allocate our money somewhere else.
Yep.
So come together and do something.
And, we all know that 290 between here, downtown Dripping, and Oak Hill is a super dangerous highway.
Oh, gosh, yes.
It's so dangerous, as evidenced by the story you just told. There's people pulling in and out, and there's some people going 70 and some people going 45, and there's people turning across. And so it needs to be improved. We've got to have some improvement. On June 1st at Ranch Park from 10 to 4, they're going to open it back up for comments.
How exhausting it must be from 10 to 4.
Yeah, and they're going to have people there. You can make comments. And the one thing that I will say, if you go there with solutions. And the solutions can't be, go route a road up over by Hamilton Pool to bypass everything. They're not doing that.
Leave your pitchforks and bullhorns at home.
Yeah, that's right. And remember, the people writing down your comments are not the ones that are actually going to do the work. They're not the engineers. They're just people there gathering comments. But it's going to happen. Maybe in a place where they have an overpass, they might consider an underpass. But the state of Texas owns that whole corridor on 290, and they're going to improve it because it's a main corridor for traffic coming in and out of Austin. And so,
And didn't they say these plans have somewhat been in the works that they've known for some 15 years or something like that? So the developers already knew that this stuff was going to happen, was going to come in.
That's right.
Regardless if I think it was going to still happen even if we didn't have that growth in 2021.
That's right. The second thing about this is the part in downtown Dripping is already in the works. That's adding 3 lanes on each side. So we'd have 3 lanes on each side and a median where you can't cut across the road like we have now, where we have a center turn lane all through town. When I leave the office at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon to go drive through town to an appointment or whatever, and you go pull out by Sonic there, and man, there's cars going everywhere. It's like bumper cars.
We hear an accident at least
every single day.
Yep. And it's usually the people, I feel, coming out of HEB going straight and they're wanting to turn. Or, you know, somebody's wanting to go straight, somebody's wanting to turn, and nobody's watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
or you really got to have your head on.
I like that new light on Lone Peak Way. I think that new light, honestly, I have seen has alleviated a lot of the traffic because people were cutting through our parking lot and through McDonald's and doing that. So I think that has really helped. And look at just one little light has done. One little new road.
Well, go there with solutions. June 1st, 10 to 4, Ranch Park. TxDOT will be there. They want to hear your comments. They'll write them down. There's going to be various ways you can talk to them. I think they're going to have it broken up into different sections where you can give your feedback on that.
Bring your own sticky notes.
But be positive. Let's get some stuff done out there. The road can't stay the way it is.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
It can't.
So I have real quick. There's actually 2 new restaurants that are being looked at coming in downtown. Short Mama's sold, and they are looking at doing a very high end restaurant.
For those of you that don't know what Short Mama's is, it's that beautiful 2-story home that is on the corner. Is it College?
It's College and 290. Yep.
And that's Short Mama's.
Yeah,
that's the name.
Yeah, and that Short Mama she owned it. I believe it was a restaurant and or an inn, like a bed and breakfast at one time. So it's been called
that would
Short
be
Mama's.
Interesting. High end,
valet parking. I
just don't know if something like that's going to work
I
here.
bet it will, and we need it eventually.
No, okay. Well, yeah.
So that's happening, and then Buddy's Rental.
Yeah.
So
Buddy
also
Lewis.
on College and Mercer. If you ever drive by there, look at the stonework on the front of that building. It is amazing stonework. That's an example of craftsmanship that we don't see very often in town here. But there's somebody proposing to put a restaurant in there called Rosie's. Now,
like Rosie's Tamale House?
No, not Rosie's Tamale House.
That place is good. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's on 71. It's
is it good?
It's been there forever.
Well, it's different. I've heard rumors about who the owners are. They're unconfirmed, so I don't want to go there.
I heard, maybe unconfirmed, but I heard it's Scott, the same guy that owns Salt Lake.
I heard that too, but I don't know that for a fact. So a couple weeks ago, you asked me about stagflation.
Yeah, it sounded like a big deer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that. Do you have any idea what stagflation is?
I know it's worse than regular inflation. That's all I... No, right? Am I right?
Yes.
I'm not a total idiot.
No. I know. Stagflation is a period of stagnant economic growth accompanied by persistently high inflation and a sharp rise in unemployment. So we don't currently have stagflation. We do have persistently high inflation, and our economic growth has been anemic at best.
I just know because of the interest rates. I pay attention to the housing interest rates because then that affects our business. And so they weren't lowering interest rates right now because they said of the inflation.
Yeah, well, inflation is really bad right now. But our unemployment is still very low. It's less than 4%. So we don't have that. So
you know why? Because nobody wants to work because they're all getting paid to protest.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty rare to have all those things happening. And prior to the 1960s, economists said that stagflation could never happen. You could never have all those factors all at once. It was just in a balanced economy. It wasn't possible. In 1965, Lane MacLeod, a member of the UK House of Commons, coined the term in 1965 as a combination of inflation, growth, stagnation. And so I don't think we're going to see stagflation, but inflation is really bad right now as a result of this huge influx of money, which has just been made worse by the Biden administration.
They're just printing money left and right.
Yeah, well, and they forgave all these student loans. Do you think those people that have those student loans are going to now be real sensible with that money, or are they going to go out and blow it?
No, they're out there shouting death to America.
No, yeah, well, some of them are.
No, they have their art degrees or their basket weaving degrees. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't think so. I mean, look, I get it. We had student loans. Todd and I had student loans when we were younger, and we did the responsible thing early on. Now, granted, our student loans were a lot lower, but we paid them off 20-something years ago. A lot of these student loan forgivenesses were for ones that you've had your student loans for over 20 years.
Right.
So you go to school to get a degree and you cannot pay your school off within 20 years. But yet my son's serving in the military. That's how he's paying for med school.
That's a whole other conversation, isn't it, about the value of a college education. The point of this is dumping all this money into the economy is what made inflation so bad in the first place. And, I was going to tell a story that kind of wraps it up in a nutshell, but it would take too long. So we have really bad inflation. Anybody knows it. You go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, your utility bills are going up. Everything's going up. I mean, there's no place you can look right now where you don't see prices increasing.
I haven't given you my bill yet. Yeah. Just wait. Wait till
that bill will remain unpaid.
Wait
to
till
be paid
that
by
happens.
the Biden administration.
I'm just going to keep tacking on. I'm going to send you to collections.
Yeah, you should. So we're not going to have stagflation, but that doesn't mean things don't suck. The analogy I'd tell you is if you go to the doctor and you expect that the doctor's going to say, hey, you're going to die of cancer in 6 months. And the doctor says, oh, no, you're going to live a long, happy, healthy life, but we're going to cut off both your legs today. They're both bad news. So this inflation is really crippling our economy, and the Fed can't drop interest rates, which will make the housing market come back until we get this inflation under control. And so
I think the United States of America, the government needs to have its own OnlyFans page so that it can get back on track.
They don't need to do that, Michelle. They'll just print money anytime they want. That's what they do.
Just go sell your feet.
Yeah.
Speaking of making money, on April 29th in Austin, the largest opioid outbreak ever happened.
I kind of heard something about this.
So as of today, the date that we're recording this, there have been 6 deaths and 67 total overdoses. They feel like more deaths will come. Calls were coming. They were fielding calls from downtown between 6th and 8th streets, and then it escalated kind of all over Austin that day. Usually they're between 2 and 3 overdoses a day, but this day they're saying that there was 1,000% increase in overdoses. They haven't seen anything like this on this level since 2015 when K2 hit the scene, which I think is those bath salts and people.
I have no idea.
But it was all races, people between the ages of 20 into their 50s. Some were homeless, some were at actual work. And at first they said they weren't sure what narcotic was causing this. And I love that the city did this. This is like, and I'm meaning this in a very sarcastic way. They called this a, quote, bad batch, you think?
Are there good batches of opioids?
Yeah, I guess so. But they have now since found out that it was crack cocaine. They have 6 suspects in custody. It's like the Wild West.
It was spiked with fentanyl?
So they've now said that it was fentanyl that was spiked with fentanyl. They've also talked about the importance of carrying around Narcan. I guess if you're into that kind of stuff, carry around your Narcan.
It's probably not a bad idea considering all the drugs that fentanyl has found its way into. You could be taking what you think is an ibuprofen and it's some kind of
I'm not
Black
taking. I'm not buying some ibuprofen from some Skid Row.
But you know what?
Loser.
Yeah, well,
You know,
I have gone into your office and said, "Hey, I got a headache. Do you have any ibuprofen?" I don't know I don't know if you got that from Walgreens or if you got that from somebody off the street.
yeah, Steve, I'm going to be buying Advil.
I'm not saying you.
I'm going to be buying Advil. Next time I'm going to lace my Advil with fentanyl. Yeah, no.
You get my point. You're at work. You don't
stupid.
know where that's
That is
stupid.
stupid.
It is not stupid.
That is stupid.
I'm standing by it.
It's stupid. Apparently, it's the same that they were feeling like the eclipse at the Eclipse Festival that was in Burnett, that quote bad batch kind of thing. But yeah, it's I've been downtown a lot. Actually, I was downtown this past Friday with my kids. We went to the Bee's Knees, which is really cool. It was a real cool place.
Is that a restaurant?
No, it's a bar.
Okay.
And Todd and I were the oldest people there, but it was kind of funny. And they let us in anyways, whatever. But we felt very safe. We went to Dirty Six. Now, granted, we weren't there past midnight, but we went to Dirty Six. We walked around with the Pete's Piano Bar. Our favorite place to eat downtown, which people can make fun of me, I don't care, is Lavaca Street Bar. There is no other restaurant than Lavaca Street Bar there. Their surf and turf, it used to be a food trailer, and they have the best food ever.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm going to take you there one day because they have the best blackened shrimp.
Oh, I'd go.
Chef's kiss.
I'd go for that.
Chef's kiss for sure. And we walked down like there on 4th Street. We walked 5th, and then we went to the Bee's Knees. We felt totally safe. We walked back there. There was a lot of police presence. Now, granted, we didn't go. We were in a group.
6th Street is getting a lot of police now because there's been some shootings down there. I think there's been a couple people killed, hasn't there?
Well, on Rainy Street's kind of dying a little bit. That was kind of the hot spot for a while there.
Because of the serial killer?
Because of the serial killer. So, yeah, if you're not killed by a serial killer, you're going to take a rogue ibuprofen and from Michelle's desk and get fentanyl poisoning.
From drug dealer Michelle.
That's right. Michelle, the drug dealer with the ibuprofen.
I'm not ever getting any drugs from you again.
I do like that
it's all
dual action
suspect.
one.
Dual action.
But yeah, there's just some weird stuff going on
Yeah,
nowadays.
there is some weird stuff happening. But you know what? We're going to hear all about plastic surgery from Dr. Sarah Saxon.
Are we ready? Because I had one more story.
Oh, you do? Well, go right ahead.
Oh, wait,
Michelle.
I do.
We have time. We
do have time. The Austin airport, boy, it blew me away. It celebrates 25 years.
That's crazy.
Because I used to drop Todd off at the old airport when he was traveling all the time.
Was it Bergstrom?
Bergstrom, off of Airport Drive. It opened May 23rd, 1999, and the Austin mayor has declared that day, May 23rd, the ABIA Day. 40 plus food and retail shops, so including Salt Lick here in town, and Amy's Ice Cream. It's one of the first airports in the country to have a local theme, which I think Austin, I travel a lot, and especially travel's back apparently after COVID. I love Austin Airport.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's nice to come home to. It feels like home.
Oh, it does. Well, I mean, they're renovating some of it and they're adding some. They have 8 music stations. I didn't realize they had that many music stations there. They also have an art gallery. Did you know that?
No.
But not besides the bathrooms, but they do. But I was telling you about this a couple of weeks ago. They have something called the Inner Imaginary Departures, and it's on Gate 14.
You told me this. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's around Gate 14, and they list flight times. They have a ticket machine, and you have to answer a couple of little questionnaire questions. And it'll print you a ticket, and it's from 120 fictional destinations found in books, film, animation, and games. And they also have a set of chairs that seem to melt into the wall, and then they have a door to nowhere that has light behind it. I'm telling you, next time you're at the airport, wander around Gate 14. You'll have it's a cool little
make
section.
a special trip.
Make a special. You can't go up there because you have to go through TSA.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah, you have to go through. But it's really cool. I mean, you know what? That's clever.
Yeah.
Right. That's very clever.
Yeah, the Austin airport's very cool. You know what is not cool about the Austin airport? The terminal where you arrive from international.
Oh yeah, I've been through that.
Oh my gosh, it's like compared to we flew to London. Getting off the plane in London, it's all real nice and big, and it's really well regulated. You get off the plane here in Austin, man, you don't know what's going on. The line. It took us 3 hours to get our luggage. It's ridiculous.
You need global entry.
I don't think it would have happened. That would have helped because we had to wait for our luggage. That was the big holdup. We arrived at like 5 p.m. and I was like, oh, we'll probably be home by 6:30. We didn't even leave the airport till like 7:30.
I wonder why. Maybe those drug sniffing dogs were after your ibuprofen.
They were after your ibuprofen. It's not my ibuprofen. It's Michelle's.
You know what's funny is it made me think of when we flew back from London and we were in that international station and they kept calling my name over the intercom. And I had a bottle of champagne I brought back from France. And I was like, I'm not going over there. And Todd's like, babe, they keep calling you. And they were using my first name. So I know that it was me. He's like, babe, just go over there and check what they're wanting. So I go over there and I was like, hi, I'm Michelle Lewis. And he said, oh, we just want to let you know that your luggage got left in London. And of course, it was the bottle of champagne luggage that got left and all of my French cosmetics that I bought. I spent like $500 at French pharmacies. And I was like, of course, it's that one.
How long did it take them to get it back to you?
They delivered it. They put it on the next plane. I put Apple AirTags always in my luggage. And it was on my... I think we checked the cameras. I think it got delivered at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So
that's what they should do.
And so along with that, if your luggage was that long, they just passed a law. And I don't know the specifics on it, but if you have to wait longer than, I'm going to say 20, 30 minutes for your luggage, you will get money back. Cause
I bet you that's not for international.
Maybe not for international, but I just, Southwest delayed our flight. And I was sitting there reading on Reddit and I complained about it for all of us. And I got $36. But $36. $36 is $36.
Lunch. Michelle's buying
Would you like some
lunch.
ibuprofen with that taco?
I got a headache now. Now can we take a break and get Dr. Sarah Saxon in here?
I'll allow it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you tired of being left in the dark when the power goes out? Say goodbye to blackouts with Nomic Power Solutions.
As your full-service Generac dealer, they offer individually designed backup power solutions.
From start to finish, they've got you covered.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Nomic Power Solutions. Protect your home, protect your family, stay ready. Proudly sponsored by...
At Capital Farm Credit, they understand that owning land is more than just a transaction. It's a legacy, a future, and a place to call your own.
For generations, Capital Farm Credit has been the trusted lending partner for land loans, farmers, ranchers, and rural dreamers just like you.
Their personalized loan solutions cater to your unique needs, making the journey to land ownership smoother than ever.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit CapitalFarmCredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Interior design should be an investment in your life and home. Let M. Elliott Studio transform your space, where interior design meets excellence in Central Texas.
Beyond just selecting colors and furnishings, team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, is a trained and licensed interior designer.
With her knowledge of architectural principles, building codes, space planning, and design theory, her team will work with you to understand your needs and lifestyle.
From concept to completion, M. Elliott Studio is committed to enhancing your space with a timeless and classic style.
Ready to redefine your space?
melliottstudio.com, 512-781-0224.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallet Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at malletintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
Welcome back. We are here with Sarah Saxon with Saxon MD Plastic Surgery Center. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Tell us where you grew up and how you ended up in Dripping Springs.
Well, I was born in North Louisiana, but soon after moved to Carthage, Texas, in Northeast Texas, little tiny town just like Dripping. Actually, I think the population may be less than dripping.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Maybe not anymore. I wonder.
Yeah. If you haven't heard of Carthage, if you've seen the movie Bernie with Jack Black and Matthew McConaughey, it was about Carthage.
Ooh,
And
maybe that means
Need to
there's
look that
hope.
one up.
There's hope for Dripping Springs. Maybe we'll have a little.
Gradually, I moved a little bit farther away, went to college at Baylor University in Waco, and then medical school at University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. And for residency, I spent some time in Albuquerque at University of New Mexico.
I was reading about that, about New Mexico, and you were, or I guess I saw your video, and you were talking about New Mexico and how small it was and how diverse that community was, and they were coming from all states, and then you had a big reservation population there as well.
Yeah. And actually, my mentor, Dr. Richard Holt, in medical school, sort of handpicked that residency for me. He was retiring. And so one of the faculty at UNM, Dr. Michael Spafford, knew him from Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
And so he knew he would be the most ethical, great surgeon to learn under. And it just so happens that New Mexico is one of the most underserved states in the country as far as healthcare. Yeah. And so everyone on a nightly basis just gets flown in. UNM is the only trauma center in the state. And so we only had one resident a year
And that was
in
you?
our residency. Me for my year. Yeah, we had ENT residency is 5 years. And so we had 5 residents. So every night was just, nonstop.
A shit show.
Yes. Yeah. So it was the busiest 5 years of my life and very hard to get through. But I know why Dr. Holt picked that residency for me. I basically could write my ticket anywhere after that. And so after I finished residency, I subspecialized into facial plastic surgery and went to Boston University. Spent a year there.
A year, yeah, right? How was that?
It was really hard
And
because
cold?
it was the worst winter on record. And so I had to, put on my Canada Goose coat and snow boots to walk to the hospital every day. It was fun.
It's fun for 1 year.
1
It's
year.
not fun if you got to live there 20 years, I'm sure.
They had so much snow, they even shut down the subway system because they couldn't clean it off fast enough. So couldn't get back to Texas fast enough after that. I had job offers all over the country, really. I was either going to come back to Texas or somewhere in the mountains. I love to ski, especially after being in New Mexico. So at the time, my mom had pulmonary fibrosis, and she was on the lung transplant list at UT Southwestern. And so they offered me a job there. And so I said, I can't really pass that opportunity up to be with my mom. And so she ended up passing away a couple years after.
Did she ever get the transplant?
She didn't. She was really short. She was a petite lady. And so it's actually really hard to find lungs for someone that's really short. So you can put a short person's lungs in someone that's taller, but not vice versa. So despite her being top of the list, she never got her lungs, unfortunately.
Wow.
So
When you're on the transplant list, does that go like all over the United States,
All
or is
over.
it just regional? Oh,
no,
wow.
all over. So that put life into perspective for me quite a bit. And there were things I wanted out of my practice and skills that I learned in my training that I wasn't really using at the time. And I'm a creative person and I really like entrepreneurship. And so I said, you know what? I want to create experience that I'm not able to deliver here in an academic setting. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to start my own. Start my own.
You were actually an associate professor, though, were you not?
Yes. Yeah. So I taught residents and fellows. I was at Children's Hospital doing microtia surgery for kids. So kids born without an ear. You can take rib cartilage and recreate an ear, basically sculpt a new ear out of cartilage. Did all the trauma for the face at Parkland in our department at the time. I had a full reconstructive practice with head and neck cancer reconstruction. And then also we had a cosmetic clinic in addition.
Is you going out and starting your own practice, isn't that sort of 180 degrees from where medicine is going in general? Aren't doctors' practices generally starting to be bought up and lumped together?
In a way, we're kind of going in two separate directions. I actually have a good friend of mine who used to be on faculty as well with me at UT Southwestern. She just started a direct care ENT practice.
Okay.
And she actually subleases. We have another office in Dallas still. And so she subleases our space. So when I'm not there, she has her clinic there. So she doesn't go through insurance. So it's a lot easier to access her and you can spend more time. And a lot of people opt for that because deductibles are really high.
Yeah.
And so the out-of-pocket costs are still high anyway. But for me, it made more sense because as an individual surgeon, reimbursement rates aren't great.
Yeah.
If you work for a big hospital, they can negotiate with companies a lot more. So when I started my practice, I had to end up making the decision to sort of not do a lot of the things that I
And which
could
is
do.
one of them is insurance, right?
Right.
Is-
So you don't take insurance at all.
I don't, no.
So does that mean that most of your patients are wealthy?
Not really, no. Plastic surgery has become so common that a lot of people save up for years for a procedure that maybe something's been bothering them for a really long time. We do have financing options, so you can get financing for 0% interest for a year, and so a lot of people have been using that as well. But I see
That's got to make the back end of your. This is a perfect example of what Michelle brings to the podcast and what I bring. I'm going to talk about the back end of your business here. Is like it must make the back end of your business a lot easier without having to deal with all the insurance. Michelle's asked you about your mom, and I asked you about the paperwork.
What I want to know is like, is malpractice the most expensive part of running your practice? Because that's kind of one of the things that you hear over and over is how insane malpractice insurance is now.
Well, malpractice is different state by state. So in Texas,
And by specialty as well?
it can be, yes.
Okay.
In Texas is actually a lot better than other states. For me and most of my colleagues, payroll is really the most expensive. Even
in Texas, there's a cap on what you can get from a malpractice lawsuit, right?
yes, yeah.
What is that called? Tort?
We've had tort reform.
Tort reform.
yes.
Tort reform,
That's right.
yeah.
Okay, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
Sarah, what drew you into plastic surgery in the first place?
Well, when I was growing up, I was both a science nerd and an art geek.
Okay.
She was president of her art club.
I was.
okay.
Yeah. So somehow, when I was in second grade, they picked me out from whatever scribble I was doing and said, "You're talented in art." And so from the second grade on, I was in a gifted and talented art class. So that's when I started more formal art training.
Okay.
And, by the time I reached high school, I really liked the face. And so I liked doing portraits. I would look at myself in the mirror and do self-portraits or just take a photo of someone from a magazine and just recreate it. And so my art teacher in high school would actually, if someone came to her wanting a portrait drawn for a gift, she would send them my contact info and I would do it for like $50 or something. And that continued on through college. And that's how I, had money for gas and going to the movies.
We call that walking around money.
Walking around
Walking around money.
Yeah. So, but I decided it would be much easier for me to make a living in medicine than in art. So
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
So in college, I decided I was pre-med in college at Baylor. And so I decided, well, I want to do plastic surgery, but I only want to do the face. And I didn't know it was a subspecialty at the time. I just thought I would do a plastic surgery residency and just focus on the face. And then by the time I made it to medical school, I figured out, wow, I can take a different route and just focus on the face and the head and neck. So that's how I ended up.
Well, it's like,
Just doing
it's an art as well.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's different techniques. I follow a lot, I guess, because of my daughter and the industry that she's in. I do follow a lot of plastic surgeons online. And
Dr. Pimple Popper.
And I know, I love to do that to Steve. I'm like, Steve, look at this.
No, I never look. She'll go, hey, look at this. I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
I'm one of those
Don't wanna see it.
weirdos that will be under the covers just kind of watching these types of procedures. I don't. Do you think that the attitude towards plastic surgery has really kind of changed over the years? Like, I think a lot of people, myself included, have looked at plastic surgery as plastic, right? And this overdone everybody kind of looks the Orange County look per se, right? The woman that has the big high cheekbones out, just fillered and Botoxed out. But now I feel, my opinion is, it's like, I'm 53. I want to get back to where I'm looking like, not that I'm 23, but that I'm just not as tired looking. And I'm probably my worst critic. But are you starting to see where it's not so much about the vanity aspect of it, and it's just wanting to, it's part of self-care.
Rejuvenation.
Right. It's really about looking as good as you feel, right? And so what I usually tell people is people that have had really good work, you don't see it because you don't know that they've had anything done. You only pick out the bad, right? Usually that's a little bit more along the lines of, someone not wanting to have surgery and they opt for continuing to do fillers and things that can add up over time. But definitely I've seen a trend where the more natural look is going. People are dissolving their fillers, opting for a facelift instead of fillers if they need it. And we have newer techniques now that look a lot more natural.
I was going to ask you, when I was growing up, plastic surgery meant boob jobs and facelifts.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. And facelifts, you could tell every time somebody had one. But are there new techniques now where you can get a facelift and the people don't know what the hell happened to your face?
Right. Yeah. For the most part, most surgeons doing a lot of facelifts have changed to a new technique called deep plane facelift. I say it's new. It's not really new, but it's just become more popular in about the last 5 years or so, where we're going in a deeper layer, lifting everything in a more vertical vector instead of horizontal, so you don't get that windswept look.
Windswept. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the surprise, like that kind of look. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that you have about what you do for a living?
I think when people think that facial plastic surgery is more vanity, I think facial plastic surgery in particular, because we all look at our faces every day, it has more impact on self-esteem more than we know. So I've had patients, have job promotions afterwards just because they carry themselves a lot differently.
Because they have more confidence.
More confidence, yeah.
Well, imagine if you're a teenager, right, Steve? Or if you were a teenager that had really bad acne, right? And part of, I guess not necessarily plastic surgery, but part of a procedure is like deep chemical peels. You cannot be awake for something like that. Yeah. And it can really rejuvenate your face. But imagine like your self-esteem is much better. Therefore, you're going to present yourself as something.
Well, right.
Sarah, you said looking as good as you feel. I actually say that all the time. I feel really young still until I walk by a mirror and I go, man, what the hell happened to you? So
stop.
I can see that though.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, maybe I'm not going to do it, but maybe some of the wrinkles could go away.
Well, that's kind of leads to the next question in the sense that you're probably seeing more and more men because it's becoming more mainstream for men as well to have something done.
Yeah, in particular, men in sales. They want to keep up with their appearance. So they start pretty slow with injectables. Also, a more common procedure in men are upper blepharoplasty or upper eyelid surgery, where that can start hooding over the eyes and affect peripheral vision.
I got that.
Yeah.
Sarah probably noticed it when she walked in.
I had her make a list of things, right? When she walked in for both of us.
Yeah. How much of your practice is people coming in with injuries versus sort of cosmetic surgery?
Nowadays, I see some sequela, like we do a lot of laser treatments in the office as well. So we'll do some resurfacing for scars. But for acute injuries, most people want to go through their insurance. And so while I offer my services, if maybe they don't have insurance or they are okay with paying out of pocket, most of the time there are several other surgeons around town that are already in network. And so we'll refer them there.
Okay. I thought it was your turn to ask a question. I was looking at Michelle. I've got one.
Okay, go ahead.
I found this quote. I remember I've heard this quote before, and I had to look it up, and I didn't realize it was Edgar Allan Poe. You may know this. Yeah. There is no exquisite beauty without some strangeness in its proportion. Meaning, the most beautiful people have something a little bit unique about them. Mm-hmm. So if somebody comes in and they want their whatever makes them unique removed, what kind of consultation do you have with somebody?
Well, maybe that's a good question.
That you go, you're really beautiful the way you are. I can make you look different, but you won't be any more beautiful.
That's a good question.
When's enough, I guess. Yeah.
I tell people no quite often, even
ya?
yesterday, seeing people in the office. But my job really isn't to tell people what they should look like. So when I see someone in consultation, I sit down on the couch with them, give them a mirror and say, hey, what things are bothering you? I can give my advice within reason, things that are safe, things that I know are small changes that they'll still look natural. But the problem with nowadays is we're not seeing real images of people, especially on social media.
Isn't that the truth?
And so half of my time is spent telling them what's real and what's not real. And sometimes if they show me a picture of what they see online of like their goal photo, a lot of times I'm like, well, that's not really possible. So this is what is possible.
So you're more coming at it from the standpoint of possible, not necessarily, because it's beauty's subjective.
Right.
So you're not saying, well, you won't look as pretty if I do that. You're saying I can do that. And here's the upside or downside, but you don't give your personal opinion on it.
Not necessarily, no, because, my job is to say, from your structural standpoint, say if someone's coming in for their nose, sometimes what they want is not possible because it will make them not be able to breathe anymore.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So if it's so small, it won't function. And so I want two things: for everything to look as natural as possible and to function well.
Well, that's your walking billboard
Right.
as well. So, if someone's saying, wow, you look amazing, who helped you get that, achieve that, you want that kind of recognition in one sense. One of the things that I had a question is that I know that we're starting to see, especially because of social media, but younger and younger girls, young women get procedures. Now, full disclosure, my daughter, she's an esthetician. She's been in the industry since she was 18 years old. She was also a professional model. So she was around all of that. She started getting Botox very early. And her explanation to me, because I was very much against it. Like, why are you doing this? Like, show me where you need Botox. But of course, when I started getting Botox when I was 35 is a lot different from her. And she said, Mom, look at it this way. I want to tell you in the simplest way possible. When you take a cardboard box and you fold it in half and you wet it, right? You've got a crease. Now it dries and you're opening it back up again. You may be able to smooth it out, but you still have some of that crease. She goes, I want to get to the point to where I'm not getting the crease.
Right.
That's how she explained. I was like, okay, well, I guess that kind of makes sense to me. But are there dangers of somebody that are that young? Now, I'm not talking about fillers. I'm just talking about, the Botox and the Dysport and whatever other injectables that are nerve injections that are like that.
We haven't seen that. And actually, from a functional standpoint, we've been using neuromodulators, which is that class of medications in kids, especially with cerebral palsy, with muscle spasms, things like that, without any problems. So to date, we haven't had any reports of that.
I think I've been getting Botox now for 20 years. So I think
I this is the part where I feel really silly, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Explain what Botox is, how it works, because almost every woman I know over 40 gets it at some point. And I hear the word, and I know they go in and get injections, and you get headaches, I think,
I get mine for migraines.
Yeah,
but then
so explain to me how that works.
Well, that is a class of medications called neuromodulators, like I just said. So there are a couple of different brands. Botox is the most common because it's been around long enough.
Botox is a brand.
Yes,
okay.
But it's not necessarily the best.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's others like Dysport, Jeuveau, Xeomin, Daxxify is the
They
newest
all do the
one.
same thing.
Daxxify is the new latest and greatest, right? It lasts longer, right?
That's what they say.
Yeah. But my insurance won't cover it.
They all have their own specific properties. So I use some in some areas and a different product in other areas. I just kind of use them to their advantage. They all paralyze the muscle. So if you think of botulism, that's what that toxin comes from. This is much lower doses. So there has been a story circulating on social media lately
I heard
of
it.
reports of counterfeit Botox that has been given at some med spas. And cause botulism in
Wow.
people. So it's really important to go to the right place.
Like locally,
yeah.
there's
Not locally,
Okay.
just nationwide.
Somebody said it was local in some place in Lakeway, but I think that was not true.
Yeah. At any rate, most of the lines that form on our upper face is from repetitive movement, from those muscles contracting. Sometimes in the lower face too. I don't love neuromodulators in the lower face because I like the mouth to move normally.
yeah. You experienced that with me. Remember, I had it.
I remember, yeah.
And I couldn't smile, and it was debilitating. I felt like it was awful because I'm such a big smiler and a big talker, and it really limited. I couldn't drink out of a straw. I couldn't do anything. It was awful.
The things you ladies do.
I know, but mine was, TMJ. I had the glossal nerval, blah blah blah.
Right.
But still, it sucked.
So you're saying most of the treatment is like the nose and above?
Yes. However, I do treat some specific muscles for functional problems. So I'll inject the masseter muscle along the jawline for people that clench their teeth a lot. Sometimes you can get bands on your neck because of a muscle called the platysma. So I can inject
I have that
muscle.
too. I can be a test case for you, Sarah.
She can inject your underarms for sweating.
I don't have that problem.
I even, because of the long hours I spend in surgery, I inject my neck.
That's where I get mine
really?
too.
Where I get spasms.
I get in my shoulders and my neck, but sometimes because I've had a neck fusion, I have to be really careful about where it goes because it can kind of give me floppy neck a little bit if I get too much. But then the side effect, one of the adverse side effects is just depending on, and I've had this happen before, is it can migrate and it's made my eye droop a little bit. And so there's a triangle above my eye. I won't get it done because I react. Just on this one, I react.
Yeah.
I've been getting it for so long. I know exactly where to do.
I'm so glad all I have to do is wash my hair and shave. And that's it. That's all the stuff I've got to do.
You never know. It's like crack. Once you go crack, you never go back.
It's very addicting.
I thought that. It's like, I could see this being a slippery slope. I yesterday when I was preparing my notes for this, I started thinking about celebrities that I know have had plastic surgery and in some cases extreme plastic surgery. I came up with a list. Angela Jolie, Meryl Streep, Kate Blanchett, Lyle Lovett, and Mickey Rourke.
So those aren't people I would automatically think. I would think Kardashians for sure because they've had every body part I think known to man. But Mickey Rourke, he does not look like the same person, and that's
true.
Yeah. How do you feel? Two things. How do you feel when you see people like that, and how do you think that they got that way?
They have money.
Yeah, I think a lot of times. Well, one, it's usually like we talked about before, surgery that wasn't quite done correctly or overly aggressive. But I think in my mind, and I've thought about this a lot, I think they're powerful people, right?
Yeah.
They're celebrities, so they
with lots of money.
People don't like to tell them no.
That's
a good
wild.
point.
So maybe they didn't need a surgery, but even if the first person told them no, they went to somebody that would say yes.
Did you ever watch that show
sad.
Botched?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Have you ever seen that show, Steve? Botched?
No.
It's like people that basically, I'll simplify it for you because it's reality TV and that's too
And I
lowbrow.
don't do that,
That's
no.
too lowbrow versus too mild. But let me give you a little hint. It's people that have basically had their faces or bodies wrecked by plastic surgery because of doctors, unlike Sarah, that will not tell them no.
Well, I've seen like there's the lady that's like the real Barbie. She got her waist really small and her upper body really big and her facial features all weird.
Right.
That was done by a doctor.
But
That's
again,
kinda scary.
it's subjective, right? So somebody has body dysmorphia that they're going to think that they're looking in the mirror and they're still whether like
I think
anorexia
that's
or
the
something.
point I'm trying to get to is you have a huge responsibility. Somebody comes in and says, I want to change the look of my body.
Right.
And I know that we kind of have this saying in real estate, if somebody asks me to do something and I don't agree with it, I'll tell them twice that I don't agree. And if they continue to tell me to do it, it's my job at that point to do it. As long as I know it's not illegal, those things. Is that kind of how you take it too?
Not really. And just like you said, their face is basically a billboard for my work. And so I think over time, and my practice has matured enough to where people can see my before and afters, and they kind of know my personal aesthetic, which is more natural looking. So the people that come to me aren't necessarily wanting that overdone look anymore.
Okay.
But I have had patients in the past want that, and I just have to say no.
You say no?
Yeah.
That's great, though. I actually think that's the strong, bold way to go, because there's probably doctors out there, like you said, they get pressured into doing things they know they shouldn't do, but somebody comes in waving a stack of money and saying, you need to do it or I'll go find somebody else.
Yeah. And it's hard with social media now because there are some procedures that just become trendy, and they're not going to be trendy forever. So you have to know. There's one particular procedure
BBL.
called
What's it called?
BBL.
or even
That's your butt.
Brazilian butt lift.
Well, you can't just say it without explaining what it is.
I thought I would say BBL, and I would say, oh, yeah, you know what a BBL is.
I don't know what a BBL is.
That's like a big old butt.
Is that what it is?
Like
Is it
the
like implants?
No, it's fat injected into the butt. Yeah. The
Where's
Kardashians
the
made
fat
that one.
come from?
Around the waist usually, or all over the body. Yeah.
Jeez.
I love to have podcasts like this, and Steve is just like,
Yeah,
my
I'm kind
head
of
just
speechless.
shakes. Why would people do that?
There's one particular procedure. I don't get it too much anymore, but a few years ago, it's called the cat eye procedure, where especially girls in their 20s, really wanted the upturned eye. Kendall Jenner actually was one that made that really popular, but I just refused to do it. It just looks
Because
too
you
fake.
knew that in a couple years they'd be going, I can't have this anymore. I need to undo
Well,
it.
also with social media, I think you have a lot of social media influencers that are peddling like these kind of useless serums. And there is, I mean, skincare is wonderful, right? That's where my daughter got her start. Skincare and estheticians are amazing people. And I'm sure you carry your own line and your preferences of what skincare you like, especially after procedure type skincare.
Right.
But there is only so much that certain skincare serums and whatnot can go, especially if you've already kind of passed the point where you need that. But one of the questions I had is the local trend and that we're seeing is, and I hate to just say this because I'm on a semaglutide, but I'm through my endocrinologist, but is the Ozempic face. And that the changes that people are starting to see by this massive weight loss that they're having, and all of a sudden they're calling it the Ozempic face. Are you starting to see some of that in your practice to where?
Yeah, I do. Volumization for me, that usually involves either filler or fat grafting is really popular for that. But also if you've been on the heavier side and you lose a massive amount of weight, you can have a lot of loose skin. So lower face and neck lifts have become a lot more popular now than even a couple of years ago.
That's my future. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Is that where you just make, and I'm oversimplifying, you make an incision and cut a piece of the skin out and sew it back together?
No.
Hey, come on.
They staple. It's a stapler. They just. I can do it later in the office if you want to. I got an ibuprofen.
With a staple remover, like just. Well, but seriously, I'm just kind of curious how, if somebody loses 75 pounds and they got stuff hanging off their jowls, how do you fix that?
Yeah, so with a face and neck lift, you make incisions around the ear so they're hidden in a natural crease. And then you go underneath the skin and you're really tightening a layer called the submuscular aponeurotic system, or the SMAS.
Okay.
So we're doing a deep plane technique, like I mentioned earlier, and releasing some ligaments that is holding all that skin down.
Okay.
And you're actually tightening the underneath layers, not the skin itself. The skin just gets trimmed at the end when
your face, I want her to explain, because I've had one. So I had a hysterectomy, and not that, but I had hysterectomy when I was 35, and my plastic surgeon closed me up abdominally. I had 3 C-sections. I want you to explain to Steve the process of what a tummy tuck, what that procedure is, because I just
everybody. I wish we had our cameras on now, because you're holding up like you're fluffing a blanket or something.
And it's not that I was overweight, right? I had a 10-pound baby. I had 3 babies, right? And so and by C-section also. So they're cutting through muscle and everything else. So it's not the stigma around you're having a tummy tuck, therefore you're lazy. You didn't work out. You didn't this. That area would
Sarah,
never.
What's that about?
well, since I do facial surgery, I don't do tummy tucks, but I know
Have you ever done one?
No.
Okay.
But
it's very similar in what she was talking about.
It's very similar to a facelift, but just for the abdomen. So you raise up all the skin of the abdomen, tighten the muscles underneath, and then trim all that extra skin.
Okay.
So do a pretty large incision at the bottom of your abdomen.
Okay. This is the 12-year-old boy coming at me. Have you ever done one of those surgeries where they like peel the whole face off and
that's pretty
Wesley's
much-
over in the corner. So you've done one of those.
That's it.
Oh,
one
are there
that I do
videos
every
on
week.
Instagram?
Ooh, you want to see some?
No, I
will
don't
send some
actually.
to
I
you.
do a lot of forehead surgery. So
Where you just pull it all down and wow.
yeah.
Does it make
That's
like
crazy.
that? What is it called? Is it crep? How do you say it? Crepitus?
Crepitus.
Crepitus. The crepitus sound, like when it does it, like
Kind of sounds like an orange peel.
yeah.
Does it really?
Yeah, a little bit.
Wow.
I want to scrub in. So you talked about a specific kind of surgery that you are specializing in, and I would love for you to talk about that. The typical woman that's coming into your office that would need this type of surgery.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on your
Yeah.
great question. Do they come in and say, I want this done? Or do they say, I'm unhappy with my eyes and my nose. What can you do?
A little bit of both. Some people come in and know exactly what bothers them. They've done research online and they have a good idea and are really well educated. Other people just know the areas that bother them and they just want me to give my opinion about what they need. I specialize in a series of procedures called facial feminization surgery that not many people do. I trained with Dr. Jeff Spiegel in Boston, who came up with a lot of these techniques. But essentially, facial feminization is a way of analyzing the face different than most surgeons do.
Okay.
Because our goals are to make the face more youthful and more feminine at the same time, which is a lot of times more than just doing a brow lift or a facelift.
Is that when, as a woman is getting older, they develop more masculine features, or they already have? I'm talking just women strictly. They already have these types of features, like the higher cheekbones and.
So part of looking feminine is looking younger. So essentially everything I do is considered facial feminization surgery.
Yes.
But some people genetically are born with a more prominent brow bone or a wider jaw. I've seen women that have been on testosterone just for like fitness competitions that developed a little bit of an Adam's apple. I've had patients come to me from different parts of the country that have some Native American background, and they naturally just have a heavier brow. So if you pair that with aging, with when the brows start to get lower a little bit, it really makes the face look a lot more masculine. Now, for some people, even the nose, if it's really large, it can masculinize the face. So I look at the face a little bit differently than most facial plastic surgeons.
How are you? Are you just subjectively looking at someone's face? Or are you taking measurements and like?
Most of the times I've done it long enough now that I can, it's part of the artistic background, I guess. I can look at a photo and then see them in person and decide in really less than a minute what procedures could be beneficial for them. In general, making the face look more feminine means making the eyes look bigger and making the lower face look smaller. So that means a couple of things. So the upper third of the face has the most impact on looking feminine. So lowering the hairline, raising the brows, and sometimes setting back the brow in a bone procedure. So,
And that's also the eye surgery, the eyelid surgery that you were talking about, which I've always had hood eyes.
The actual bone underneath?
it can be, yes.
Okay.
Oh, so are you shaving away the bone in
Yes.
that sense?
After they peel the face off,
You got it.
I think she gives him more than an ibuprofen for that.
I hope so.
For sure. How are you, the procedures that you're talking about now, and I know you have a practice in Dallas and you're here now in the Hill Country. How different are the procedures you're seeing in the
that's a
regions?
great question.
We're in Texas, right? So, and Dallas, that's where my daughter's is, and she's there for a reason. That's the med spa capital of Texas, right? And the region. But how are you seeing the differences here in the Hill Country?
I think Dallas is just a part of the culture. Plastic surgery is just really common. And so things that maybe haven't made it to Austin yet, it's really common in Dallas. So I do a lot of jaw contouring in Dallas, lots of facelifts. I see a lot of feminization surgery there, even above what I see here. But I get patients from all over the country fly in. Just like I said, not many people do the procedures I do. I see in Austin a lot of my patients start out on the non-surgical side. And then
Botox.
Right. And skin treatments,
Fillers,
and non-surgical things. And then they gradually work their way into having surgery over
But
time.
you can do a combination of between the surgery and like the chemical peels
Correct.
and things like that. What is that new one? Or not? It's not new, but it's scary. Where it takes like 3 months. That's the time aspect of it too, where you're totally
What's that
peeling.
There's one called the Cosmoland peel. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
It looks Tales from the Crypt almost like.
I often find that laser treatments are a lot faster to recover from than chemical peels. And so we have an erbium laser in our office that we can do a deeper resurfacing treatment, but we can get a similar result as a deeper chemical peel.
My daughter works for Alma Lasers, so I'm sometimes her guinea pig if I go to conferences and I'm like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And
I'll do it.
it's scary.
Yes, I've been in before. She's done several, and I was like, I came in one time with like Aquaphor all over me, and I was like, don't look at me. I'm just here to work. Don't mind me. But the time commitment, back to that. I mean, you really have to commit. What is your average recovery time for someone that's not having a full lift, but
Well, I think in terms of surgery, functional downtime and social downtime. So most of the time for me, functional downtime is maybe a week.
okay.
So if you work from home or, aren't out and about in public a lot, you can get back to normal pretty quickly. If you want to look fully put together, usually around a month, especially if you have bruising. The incisions stay pink for a while.
Yeah.
So until you can fully cover that up with makeup, it's usually around a month.
You said people are flying in from all around the country. How are people finding out about you?
Word of mouth.
Is it really? So somebody in whatever Boston says, somebody will go, hey, you look great. What'd you do? Oh, I went and saw Sarah. You got to go see Sarah.
You talked about the back end of it too, and probably part of being a physician is you never probably understood the sense that you're going to have to market yourself on social media. And it's like, okay, I'm a doctor. This is what I do. Right. And now I'm having to sell myself almost.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Is it uncomfortable?
It's not natural for me at all. I mean, anyone in the office knows I don't really like to talk about myself a lot. But I do. Social media is part of my job now, and educating people. I think of more as educating than marketing.
Do you have, like on Instagram, do you do videos about what you offer so that people know?
I do videos before and afters tend to be more helpful.
Some of the before and afters on your website are amazing.
Oh,
people
thank
look
you.
so completely different.
Yeah. I don't like to do intraoperative videos like some surgeons do. I feel like that turns people off with facial surgery more than it's good.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see it. You know what? I didn't.
You get a lot of 12-year-old boys watching.
Right. That's right. Isn't that the truth? I didn't. I think I interrupted you, but how soon, ideally, would you suggest someone start?
Someone start
Whether injectables or and like
What age?
at what age, and then at what age? Also, the opposite end of the spectrum is at what age is it like? I probably wouldn't do this. I mean, now you have the risk of going under anesthesia.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to be a Joan Rivers, right? So there's this
That was
this
one of the other
spectrum.
ones I
Yeah.
Well, we start losing collagen and elastin in the skin starting in our early 20s, about 1% to 2% a year. So early on, it's imperative to do sunscreen every day. You could even start like a vitamin C serum. So when you're younger, I mean, that's really when it starts to prevent a lot of the damages from aging. But in your mid to late 20s, you can do some light peels, especially if you have acne or other skin problems. Most people wait until they're in their 30s to do any more aggressive treatments like microneedling or lasers, things like that. In your 20s and 30s, it's pretty common to have a rhinoplasty or a nose job. When you get into other things, it's mostly late 30s, early 40s is when most people start thinking about more surgical treatments.
Do you ever recommend people taking collagen supplements like powders and stuff?
It's not going to hurt. I haven't seen any strong evidence to support that it does a lot.
I do that every day.
Do you?
I do. I have a shake collagen protein shake.
I know. I
every day.
see your Amazon cart.
Do you really? Yeah. That's where I get it. Sarah, just kind of a general health question. There's so much false information out there these days about what's healthy and what's not. How much of your time are you spending educating people when they come into your office?
That's pretty much 100% of my time is that there are so many things that are not only helpful, but can be harmful. I've even had people tell me, oh, the sun is really great for your skin. I'm not going to wear sunscreen. Well, that's probably the worst thing that you could possibly do.
Really?
Well, because I know where they're coming from because I've seen that narrative on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. It's because, it's the chemicals that are in the sunscreen. Well, so now you need to be using mineral sunscreen.
Right.
And when I was just talking about this in Monologue, I stocked up on my French sunscreen, like everything from Europe. I was like,
It's got to be frustrating though to be battling these TikTok people that come in and they watched a couple TikTok or Instagram videos and they, Dr. Sarah, I want to get this done, and you go, no, we're on the wrong track there.
That's Dr. Miami.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I'm even disagreeing with other surgeons because cosmetic surgery is really as much of an art as it is a science. So not everybody has the same opinions of everything. So, to each his own. If someone wants to do a procedure that I just don't think is good to do, there are other surgeons out there that they can go see.
Unfortunately, there are other surgeons that will do it.
Yeah. Outside of plastic surgery, when you were doing your residency and all of your training and you were in New Mexico, obviously without naming names, but you have one case that really kind of lives rent free in your head that you think about?
Gosh, I did a lot of cancer reconstruction. Even the longest surgery I was in was about 24 hours.
Are you kidding?
Really?
Yeah. That included removing the cancer and reconstructing. A lot of that is smoking related or HPV. So most head and neck cancer is from one of the two. And it can be, because the head and neck anatomy is so complex, it can take a long time because like I said, we want to preserve as much function as possible. So you're millimeter by millimeter dissecting out little nerves and blood vessels, and you can take parts from, we can take part of your fibula and recreate your jaw.
Wow.
How did that affect you physically? I mean, like how's the surgery rotation in a surgery that long?
You must have had multiple surgeons.
So in academic medicine, you have attendings and residents and fellows. So I was a resident at the time, and then we have an attending who removes the cancer and an attending who reconstructs. Usually, especially if you're a senior resident, you're kind of there for both. But because there's a whole team, you can take a break to go eat or go to the bathroom. Most of the time in surgery, you're dehydrated, and so you don't really have to go to the bathroom. People ask me that question all the time. Now it's pretty common for me to do a 7-hour surgery, but I don't take breaks. I don't have residents with me, but the time just flies by. People talk about the flow state, and that's when I get in my flow state. That's when I'm most relaxed, is in surgery.
What shoes do you wear?
I wear Brooks. Yeah, Brooks running shoes. Yeah.
Support.
Yeah.
Do you wear like support?
I wear compression stockings. Yeah. There's the Good Feet store will actually mold an insert to put in your shoes. They have Brooks shoes there too, so it's all the same.
Do you have to have a recovery from, like, if you do a 7-hour surgery the next day, are you sore and tired?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I have a hot tub I have to soak in.
Yeah. I can. It's like running a marathon, Steve.
I do.
I don't think it's quite like that.
Well, the night before I do carb prep similarly.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And then in the morning I have to have a high protein breakfast. Otherwise I'll just get hungry.
Well, yeah, but because you also want your mind to be clear. You don't want to be like Steve thinking of beef jerky when you're.
Yeah.
As soon as my blood sugar drops, I'm a mess. So, but yeah, I had to grab a snack before we started. I want to kind of shift over to your downtime when you're not operating, not seeing patients. And we asked you this in your bio, and some of the things you like doing are paddleboarding on Town Lake, which you call Ladybird Lake, hiking. Yeah. Where do you go hiking?
I like the Greenbelt. It's probably my favorite.
Yeah, I like that too.
Especially when it has water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year it was pretty dry.
It was, yeah. Do you get a chance to go out and do those things very often?
Not as much as I would like, but the last year I've been building out my clinic here and then going back and forth to Dallas. So I try to get out as much as I can, but gosh, even this weekend I was installing a new shelving system in our closet in the new office. So, so it kind of gets taken up.
Building a business is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. Isn't it? Yeah.
Are you married?
No, I have a significant other though.
No, because we're married to your job right now, for sure. Are you driving back and forth, or are you flying back and forth to Dallas?
To Dallas. Sometimes we fly and sometimes we drive.
Have you heard of that new bus that you can sit there? Yeah.
Have you tried it?
The Von Lane.
Yes.
I haven't tried it only because the schedule doesn't necessarily work out with my clinic schedule. So, yeah, if we drive, we have to leave at like 5:30 in the morning or something.
It's
like
the getting out of Austin that's the worst part, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, somebody like me says, you know what? I'm a little unhappy with some of the things I've got going on in my face. I should go see Sarah. You just make a consultation appointment?
Yeah, so you can call my office, and we have aesthetic concierge that'll answer the phone, and they'll kind of walk you through all the process and can get a preliminary idea of the things that are bothering you and whether you're a good fit for that procedure or if maybe we want to talk about other things. And they can send you all the paperwork we need beforehand and get you into the office.
If they come into the office, do they get a chance to see you, or do they only see you if surgery is scheduled?
No, I'm very hands-on. So I would spend at least an hour with every new patient and go through their photos and medical history and make sure that we're on the same page about what they want and what I recommend. And then I see everyone a second time before surgery for a pre-op appointment. Okay. And go through any updated medical history they might have.
I'd be afraid to do that because I think I'd go home and go, yeah, she's right. That does look bad. And, oh, yeah, I could use a little lift there. Oh, fix this.
When someone does make that decision to go in to have surgery, and you were talking about you are a private pay. Mm-hmm. So like an average cost for some, and I know you have you're doing many different procedures, but we're looking at, like Steve was saying, $100,000, or we're looking between the $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 range?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what it is. It can be from a short, simple thing in the office around $5,000 all the way upwards of $50,000 or $60,000.
And you're trying to build out a surgical center. So once that surgical center comes, then your prices that you will quote, will that be all encompassing, or is it now you're going to piecemeal you'll get a bill from the anesthesiologist or the recovery? And
so even though our surgery center isn't open yet, we still include that because I want the process to be as seamless as possible. Yes. So even though we have to we take that payment on their behalf and then pay the surgery center and the anesthesiologist.
Oh, good.
We have an overnight nursing service too that we can use. And a lot of my patients will come in from out of town by themselves. So we have people that can stay with them and transportation and all that. We kind of take care of all that for them. And I also give all the post-op supplies to them in a nice little cute
That's
box.
Wonderful.
So they don't have to worry about that or try to find a pharmacy that
they're in a town that they're unfamiliar with and just trying to navigate that, because that kind of happened to me in California too. They were like, oh no, we'll give you all your medications when you leave surgery, and we're like, I hope there's a CVS around here somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So I've been a patient myself, so I just want my patients to feel like they're well taken care of. Not have to worry about anything.
I got one final question. We're going to wrap up. Are there any new techniques or things coming in plastic surgery that you're excited about?
New techniques.
Or is it the same old thing it's always been?
Well, we're always making things a little bit better, a little bit at a time. From a drastic change standpoint, nothing that comes to mind except for in the non-invasive space.
Okay.
So technology is getting better and better. It's not quite there yet to where you can get a minimally invasive procedure to where it will be the same as a surgical procedure, but it's getting better. Lasers, treatments are getting better with less downtime. I do a lot of regenerative treatments, so I use exosomes a lot to decrease recovery from skin treatments and even incisions.
Okay.
So that is all making the whole experience a lot better with less downtime, less complications.
I could see that would be huge.
Well, and I guess the latest and greatest, I guess it's kind of on the scene, is the red light therapies also,
That's
which are great. I have an at-home red light therapy that I got from Alma Lasers, and I use it a lot. I love it, but it rebuilds that kind of collagen level.
I heard Joe Rogan talking about that. I think it was Joe Rogan. Somebody was talking about that on another podcast.
Is there anything that you think you would like our listeners to kind of know about you that we haven't really touched on about your practice that maybe is unique from anybody else?
Yeah. Well, plastic surgery is pretty new in Dripping Springs right now, to my knowledge.
Yes,
I'm the first one. I love living out here. I moved to Dripping in 2020 during the pandemic. And so I just want to bring in that hometown feel, what I'm used to and how I grew up. And so coming into my office is not necessarily going to be the same as kind of a bigger place that feels a little sterile. It feels more like you're at home. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think that's what people here in this area gravitate towards.
Yeah. So I just want everybody to feel nice and comfortable when they walk in the door and not feel like they have to, be stressed out.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And the website is Saxon-MD.com. There's a bunch of really good information on there.
Yeah, we just launched our new website last week.
It's beautiful. Your website is really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your afternoon. I know that you had some procedures this morning, and you made some time for us, but we really appreciate it. And I'm
Are you going to hang around
glad,
and give us some Botox?
Right. I'm glad you're in town. Trust me, you may be my biggest fan, or I may be your biggest fan.
You're going to be her biggest fan.
I'm sorry, I may be your. Yes, absolutely.
And I'm a fan. I really like what you're doing. It sounds like you're helping a lot of people, and I like your mindset about this whole process. I think plastic surgery in some places gets a bad rap, and it's really great to hear your take on it.
Oh, good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
My
thanks
pleasure.
for coming
Thanks for joining us.
All right.
Ready to turn your land dreams into reality? Look no further than Capital Farm Credit.
Need a loan for your perfect piece of land? Capital Farm Credit is there for you.
Their dedicated team will tailor a loan to fit your unique needs because your dreams are their priority.
Capital Farm Credit, your land, your legacy. Visit capitalfarmcredit.com or Mark Rutledge at 512-892-4425.
Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better.
Capital Farm Credit, an equal credit housing lender.
Nomic Power Solutions, keeping you powered up.
Get to know your local full-service Generac dealer.
Cody and Dylan with Nomic Power Solutions are a veteran-owned, Texas-based Generac dealer and installer.
Offering low monthly payment options, it's never been easier to gain independence from the grid.
Call or text 512-387-4232 or visit nomicpower.com. Follow on Instagram at Nomic Power for updates.
Turnkey service including design, plumbing, electrical, and permits.
They even offer set-it-and-forget-it maintenance plans. Nomic Power Solutions.
Protect your home. Protect your family. Stay ready. Elevate your living experience with M. Elliott Studio, your trusted partner in interior design, registered and licensed by the state of Texas.
You want your home to reflect your personal style and identity. Investing in a well-crafted design doesn't just beautify your home, it enriches your life.
Team principal and owner, Montana Elliott, understands the profound impact of a thoughtfully designed space. From remodeling to full design, M. Elliott Studio is the first step to unlocking your style.
Turn your aspirations into reality. Tailored to your taste and desires, M. Elliott Studio will work to create an environment that embraces your style with style.
Your space, their expertise.
melliotstudio.com 512-781-0224.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallet Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.